All right, welcome back to the Ari Lewis Show here on Israel National Radio Root Sheva. The show is syndicated as the Messiah Hour on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's free to do so. And, of course, you can find me on www.j-app.me. Any questions, comments, concerns, you can send that email to messiahhour@gmail.com. We're continuing the conversation with Rabbi Kaye. And, Rabbi Kaye, you wanted to make a disclaimer before we continue forward?
Yes, in regard to the concept of the belief in Mashiach, who is Mashiach and so on. So I'm stating everything I'm saying on the basis of my understandings and my beliefs as I've received from the teachings of the Rebbe. I share this understanding and belief with many, many Lubavitchers all over the world. But being the fact that you introduced me as a representative from Ascent of Tzfat, I want to perhaps make a disclaimer in regard to the fact that this is definitely something on a personal note that I'm saying in regard to my beliefs and my understandings of Mashiach and the Geulah and redemption, and not otherwise representing the Institute.
Okay. All right. So let's continue on what we were saying before the break. Now, because mainstream Judaism doesn't really, I guess, believe that someone could physically die and then come back. So then how do you go with the two? Then you have your belief and the Lubavitcher belief, and then there's mainstream Judaism, which doesn't really hold to that belief. How do you kind of work those two together?
Well, this is the concept that we have just mentioned. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a contradiction. The Torah very clearly says that not everything we see in our understanding is the true reality. I heard once it was quoted. Rabbi Vilshansky, the Rosh Yeshiva here in Tzfat, he mentioned that he heard from the Hasidim, how do we know that the color of snow is white? So if a person looks at you and here's the question, he'll think that you fell from the moon. What do you mean? Everyone knows that snow is white, and not necessarily. The fact that the Torah tells us, "In yihyucha tachatechem kashanim kasheleg yalbinu," if the Jewish nation, Hashem says, the sins will be red as the tolat, the shani worm. They will be white. Hashem will cleanse them as white as snow. This is the source where we know that snow is white. And therefore, when we come and we have to deal with reality, like you said, a person passes away. Yes, there are many people that we see passing away. But when we look into the Torah and we see the teachings, and the Rebbe very clearly comes and puts in front of our eyes the fact that the leader of our generation is the Mashiach of the generation, and he says very clearly that our generation is the seventh generation that will be the last in Galut and the first in Geulah, last in exile, the first in redemption. There is no place in this concept for a physical passing as we understand it. As a matter of fact, in those 2 last years that we heard the Rebbe speaking, the Rebbe says, and he initiates the concept in our day and age of Chayim Nitzchiyim, eternal life, which will be in the times of Mashiach. Now, the fact that people are passing away as far as we see it doesn't mean that our understanding is taking away or contradicting from the actual fact and the reality that these people aren't with us, but they are in a state of hiddenness and concealment until the moment, and it should be immediately now, that Mashiach will be revealed to our very eyes. So it's not necessarily a contradiction, it doesn't conflict with anything. The fact is that the Torah says very clearly that the hiddenness and concealment, after this, it will follow the revelation. If anyone wants to go again, and whether it be mainstream or otherwise, if they do not, or if they wish to ignore that which is written very clearly in the Holy Scriptures or in the writings of the Kabbalah, in the writings of the Ari, a person has the freedom to choose. And this actually is the definition of one's belief. If a person has a certain scope of belief, it's according to their choice. And therefore, if they choose not to believe this, they can go with the the first concept of understanding that we said, that yes, maybe Mashiach might be gone, but at the same time, the Talmud says, if it's from the dead, and Mashiach can be from the dead, the Talmud says very clearly, it is who? Daniel, Ish Chamudot, the prophet Daniel. And by the way, when the Talmud brings concepts which make no sense or are totally off the wall, immediately there are interjections of other rabbis that say, what are you talking about? How can this be? Where does this concept come from? In this concept that we just mentioned, in the Talmud, there is no one that comes and brings about a rhetoric. No one comes and challenges what the Talmud says very clearly, even though it seems to be totally off the wall. Therefore, this is again a proof that this is a very, very solid and concrete concept. Okay, if you choose to believe in that scope, so it can be the Lubavitcher Rebbe, even though you might believe that he's not with us anymore. But if you choose to take yourself to another dimension, the dimension that we mentioned, coming from Rabbi Yitzchak Luria in the Kitvei Hari, coming directly from Rabbi Chaim Vital, so here we see it doesn't conflict. Mashiach is still alive. The candidate is here. Not only is he here, but he tells us that he is working actively in the world, as we mentioned before. All these nations that are toppling, this is the work of Mashiach. Everything that we see again, right in front of our eyes happening are the works of Mashiach, and this is what we believe.
Again, this is the Ari Lewis Show here on Root Sheva, Israel National Radio. The show is syndicated as the Messiah Hour on YouTube. Our guest this afternoon is Rabbi Eliyahu Kaye. Rabbi, I heard one time a concept, Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av, and someone once told me that the Lubavitcher Rebbe may have been born or conceived on Tisha B'Av. So I wonder if you could talk about, does the verse say born on Tisha B'Av or conceived? And if that's true, was the Rebbe himself conceived on Tisha B'Av?
These types of intimate matters is very, very difficult to come and say on a definite basis. I mean, I can tell you when the Lubavitcher Rebbe was conceived, but obviously I can't. But if you go and you count from the Rebbe's birthday, Yud Aleph Nisan, you count 9 months back, you come to the month of Av. Even though you might come and you'd say, oh, it's 7 months, it's 9 months, we see that Moshe Rabbeinu was also born 7 months later, and he was the first. He was the first Moshiach. He was the first leader of the Jewish nation. He was the first that was the potential Mashiach. Not only that, but we say that Moshe Rabbeinu hu goel rishon hu goel acharon. He is the first redeemer, and he will be the last redeemer because his soul is actually coming and is in the manner of Ibur. It comes and it pregnates itself within the leader of the generation. Hence, when we're talking about the Ibur, this is when the person is conceived. This is where the spirit of Mashiach enters within the individual per se. Even though, again, we said that it's not our job, and we definitely don't have the position to go and to be able to say this is definitely where the spirit of Mashiach or Moshe Rabbeinu came into the leader of the generation or otherwise.
Now, one of the things also I want to get to where you talk about some of the different customs that Chabad has, like not shaving their beard, Klav Yisrael. In America, Klav Yisrael is more the halakha, but in America there's a leniency, and the Chabad didn't follow it. So I wonder if you could talk about a bit about some of the different customs the Lubavitchers have over mainstream Judaism, if you will.
I don't know how that actually has to do with Mashiach on a direct basis, but I can say in on a very definite note, one of the major things that the Rebbe has mentioned in regard to the hastening and the speeding up of the revelation of Mashiach is the concept of Hidur Mitzvah. In other words, observing the mitzvot in a more beautified manner. Okay? We know, for instance, in regard to Purim, that if a person wants to know how many presents, mishloach manot, how many presents do we have to give to our friends in order to fulfill the obligation of the day? So it's very clearly, it says in the Megillah, mishloach manot ish lire'ehu, the sending of presents of food. In other words, 2 portions of food from one person to one's fellow person. So Ari, I would be able to give you the mishloach manot on Purim if you're around in Tzfat, and that would be wonderful. And that's it. I fulfilled the mitzvah. But over here we see by many, many different codifiers that came later, we come and we see that no, it should be a person should try to give at least to 2 people. As a matter of fact, it says that it goes according to the pocketbook of the individual, because the whole concept of giving mishloach manot is to go on to bring about happiness and joy, an additional concept of happiness and joy within the world. So the more people we give, the more we beautify the mitzvah. By the way, when we speak about the Lubavitcher Rebbe, so we know that by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the custom is that they give, that the Rebbe gives 3 people mishloach manot, and he doesn't suffice with 2 portions of food. The Rebbe gives a piece of mazonos, something which is a baked good, which usually would be a ozen haman, and a fruit, and a bottle. Still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so here we see that the more that we raise our abilities to beautify the mitzvah and to do it in the most appropriate of manners, is the Rebbe says clearly, is a means of hastening and bringing Mashiach faster. Now, if we're talking about halachic issues and halachic matters, so for instance, Chalav Yisrael, it's brought in different places. Metamtem es hamoyach ves halev. If a person chalav akum, if a person drinks milk which was not supervised, milked and supervised from the beginning till the end under the supervision of a Jew, metamtem hamoyach ve'alev means that it perverts the mind and heart of the individual. And we see also Rav Moshe, alav shalom. Right, so he brings that initially in regards to the fact that he allowed Chalav Yisrael was only in situations where there were yeshiva boys that didn't have what to eat and didn't have what to drink in the difficult times in the United States, and there he allowed it because the government has such a strict supervision of only allowing the milk of cows in the government supervision, but under other situations, Rav Moshe, for instance, was given a cup of milk, and then after he drank the cup of milk, he was told that it was cholav akum, and he induced vomiting in order to go into to remove himself from the milk. Okay, so this is the pesha asar, pesha hitir. He who has forbidden the milk, and he who has given the allowance to drink this milk. We see very clearly that it's not a issue that a person can go and say, okay, so today in the 21st century, there's no issue of chalav akum. Everyone can continue to go and to drink chalav akum. God forbid, and especially if we're talking about hastening the coming of Mashiach, that we should definitely try the best of our abilities to beautify the mitzvah of kashrut, even if it's in the opinion of a person who says that it's not something that it's not a must. Even though as we mentioned before, there are many codifiers that say that it is a must. But even in those eyes of the people that say that it's not a must, in order to bring the hastening and the revelation of Mashiach now, how much more so should a person be more careful and stringent in the laws of kashrut, the laws of the observance of kosher dietary laws?
All right, and last question I have for you. We're both in Israel, you're in Tzfat, I'm in Jerusalem. If you could just talk about the importance of living in Israel and what that has to do with the coming of Mashiach.
The importance of the living in the land of Israel is very interesting because we see in regard to this concept that living in the land of Israel, there's a very short story told in regard to the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Lubavitcher Rebbe. There was a individual that wanted to pick up and leave Russia in those days and come to Israel because he wanted to be buried in the Holy Land. He wanted to live his very last years in the Holy Land. He had a very, very big company, and he employed many, many Jews, giving them their livelihood. The Tzemach Tzedek, not taking under consideration all the details that we mentioned, comes and tells him what would be wrong for you to stay here in Russia. So he said, but Rebbe, what could be greater to go into the land of Israel and to have my last days and years in the land of Israel? The Tzemach Tzedek smiled and he told him, and this is a quote, a story that the Rebbe himself has been heard many times mentioning. He said in Yiddish, Mach do Eretz Yisrael. Make here where you are the land of Israel. And what the explanation behind this is that any place where a Jew might be, when he or she observes the mitzvot of the Torah, studies the Torah, and observes the commandments of the Torah, they are making the holiness of the land of Israel in that place. It could be the United States, it could be France, it could be Denmark. Okay? So it does not, definitely, and again, a disclaimer, this does not conflict with the concept of a person making aliyah and making their home here in Israel. I definitely cannot speak for myself because I live here in Israel. I live in one of the 4 holy cities in Tzfat. But at the same time, it does not run as a contradiction that if a person wants to bring about the hastening of the coming of Mashiach, that they cannot do it from where they find themselves today in the diaspora. Okay? By what? How does a person do this? By adding in their Torah study, adding in their observance of the mitzvahs, or as we mentioned before, the beautification of the observance of the mitzvahs. And this is basically also the concept and the field that I deal with the concept of the personal Kabbalistic codes. When a person wants to know not only about the idea of something, but specifically what this has to do with themselves, so we see a concept of being able to search for the letters of a person's name in their birth portion and being able to uncover the concealed personality, character traits, the soul mission of the individual. And this is something that I've had the merit of doing for the last 20 years here in Tzfat, in the ascent of Tzfat Institute here in Eretz Yisrael.
Okay, great. And before we go to break, before we end the show, I just wanted to send a shout out to a person that helped set up the interview, Sarah Goldman. She wrote to me and wanted this interview. As I said, this is a very interactive show, so if the audience wants me to interview someone or talk about a certain topic, email me at messiahhour@gmail.com, and we'll make that happen. Our guest this afternoon has been Rabbi Eliyahu Kaye of the Ascent Center in Tzfat. Rabbi, thank you for being on today.
You're very welcome, and you should have a wonderful Purim, and we should all have La Yehudim Haita Ora V'Simcha V'Sason V'Ikar, just as the Jews in Persia in the times of Mordechai and Esther had the great happiness and joy and simcha, Ken Tihiyeh Lanu, so it should be for us. And immediately now, even before we enter the holiday of Purim, we should have the Geula Hashlema V'Amitit, the true and complete redemption with the coming of Mashiach immediately now.
Amen to that. And
Amen v'amen.
Yes, and thank you everyone for listening as well. Again, this is the show, Ari Lewis Show, here on Arutz Sheva, Israel National Radio. And the show is syndicated as the Messiah Hour on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis and subscribe to the YouTube channel. As I mentioned, the email is messiahhour@gmail.com. and I'm on JApp, www.j-app.me. And if you'd like to make a financial contribution to the program, you can do so through my PayPal account, which is israelsportsradio@yahoo.com. Thank you to Rabbi Eliyahu Kaye, and thank you to everyone out there for listening. This is the Ari Lewis Show here on IsraelNationalRadio.com. All right, Rabbi, thanks for being on. I really appreciate it.
Very, very welcome. By the way, Ari, I misunderstood the interview, because what she told me we would be interviewing and speaking about is basically the work that I do in regard to the Kabbalistic codes. And here, you totally took me by surprise.
Right. I wanted to do like an intro show where the audience gets to know you better, and then the next time you come on, then I wanted to talk about the codes.
Now I understand better. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I want to thank you. It was a pleasure, and I hope that the show goes in Michael from strength to strength. You're doing fantastic work out there. And by the way, you sent me the address that I would be able to hear your show in general and this show in particular.
Yeah, I'm going to send you when I put it up to YouTube. I'm going to send you the link.
Okay, and by the way, in YouTube, so do they see me live on Skype?
No, they're not going to see you live on Skype. They're going to hear an audio, and then I'm going to put a picture probably of you up, and they'll hear the audio under it.
I see. Very good, wonderful. If I can help in any additional manner, so you know how to reach me, and it'll be my pleasure, my honor. Again, Freilichen Purim. And you're going to be in Jerusalem for Purim?
Yeah, I'm going to be in Jerusalem.
Fantastic. Okay. And we should have, like I said, Mashiach immediately now. By the way, what background do you come from?
Actually, I have to do another interview right now, but let's talk another time.
Very good.
Very
good. I had this in mind as well. Very good. Ari Kol Tuv.
All right. Thanks so much.
Mashiach now.
All right. Mashiach.